Hi everyone, I am Anna and I am a PhD student here at BYU. And because I am a PhD student, I think that qualifies me to tell you that the world around you is getting smaller. So your cell phones, your computers, medical devices, so many things are getting so much smaller than they used to be. And so it becomes really important for us to be able to make these really small things. One of the types of really small things that we're making is called microfluidics, or they're also been nicknamed lab on a chip. So that's where we take big things that we can do in a laboratory and we shrink them onto chips that are so small, you can see that that particular chip there, it's smaller than your finger. So we are making these really, really tiny things. But because they're so small, one of the things that becomes really important is how can we make them and how can we make them really well. So the best way to make microfluidic devices or any other small thing is to do that in a clean room. So a clean room is an environment where we can protect anything that we're making from, especially dust, because when we're making something as small as your hand or as small as your finger, dust becomes a big problem, and a clean room protects us from that. The problem is, clean rooms come with a couple of disadvantages. And so as we look at what these problems are, we first find that a clean room is really slow. If we're trying to prototype something in the clean room, it can take us anywhere from 3 to 7 days, which we just don't have time for. The second thing that is a real problem is that clean rooms are expensive. Most clean rooms can cost up to $1,000 per square foot. So the one at BYU, by no means, is a large clean room, and it's worth well over $2 million. So you can see that clean rooms just cost a lot of money. We have to put a lot into them. The third problem that we find is that clean room fabrication is really difficult. If you want to train somebody new how to use some of this instrumentation, you can spend weeks doing training, and then you have to do practice on top of that to be able to fabricate anything useful. So clean rooms just have so many problems. So as a lab, me and my team started looking at what's an alternate approach that we can use. Instead of using a clean room, can we look at something else? So we started looking at 3D printing as that alternate approach. So what we did is we went ahead and made something called a valve, and that's that round feature that you see there. A valve is a very common feature of microfluidics, and so it becomes a really nice gauge of can we match what the clean room can do. So we made the smallest valve that we could in the clean room, and we can make it a little bit smaller than a millimeter. So we're talking really, really small. And then we bought a really good 3D printer. And when we did that, we made the smallest valve we could, and it was about 8 times bigger than the clean room. Well, that's just no good. We need small things. That's even bigger. So we searched the market some more. We bought the absolutely best 3D printer we could find on the market. And then we made another valve. And the smallest we could get was still 2 times bigger than the clean room. This just wasn't good enough. So introducing a Korea 3D. We went ahead and built our own 3D printer. And we have patented some of the work on this to protect us. And what we've done with this 3D printer is then went ahead and went back to our valves. And when we made those valves, that tiny little dot is what we made. So that's about 20 times smaller than the best thing you can do in the clean room. So we're beating out any type of competition that might exist. Now to emphasize how small this is, we took a couple of those valves and we put them into something that's even more useful. In this case, we made a fluid pump. So those are the valves there. And what we can do is we can pump fluid through channels, which is a really important thing for moving any kind of sample through a medical diagnostic or anything else you want to do. So this becomes really, really important. And then what we did is we printed 60 of them at a time. And this chip that you see here is smaller than a penny. So we can make 60 at a time really, really fast. So let's look at, do we solve the problems of the clean room? The first problem we had was that a clean room was slow. Most of our prints take less than an hour. So we beat a clean room out by far. The second problem was it was expensive. Our hardware costs far less than what a clean room would cost, and we replaced all of that equipment in one shot. Finally, in difficulty, 3D printers are way easy to learn how to use, which is why 3D printing has exploded so much in recent years. So really, we have beat out the clean room and any type of competition and solved pain. So as we look at revenue sources, we looked at 3 different options. The first was to manufacture and sell our printers. The second was to have some consumables that come along with the printer. And then third, we plan to sell our services to print devices and sell them to other groups. We have already started getting traction on our first and third. In the first, like I said, we have patented our printer, and that is pending. We have also already sold to different groups in Germany and in Canada. In our third revenue source, we have already started working with several groups to service and You'll notice I pointed out BYU because we are working with many different departments to be able to do that, and we have a lot of other groups that have approached us with a lot of interest in that. So with that, I would be happy to take your questions.
Hello, my name is Todd Paskett. I'm the CEO and founder of Auxilium Automation, and we have created a robot that automates roof teardowns. I want to take us on a journey out of Utah into Colorado, where roofs like this are very common. This damage happens when hail the size of golf balls or baseballs hit the roof. This may seem like a small or isolated problem, but take a look at this. In 2017, State Farm Insurance paid out $3 billion in hail damage claims in the 10 Tornado Alley states. If you don't believe me, go check the news. It is a huge problem. So big that across the United States, this is a $17.38 billion problem, highlighted by the fact that it's cost ineffective, there's a labor shortage with not enough skilled laborers, and it's the 5th most dangerous industry in the United States. You would think with such a big problem that our competitors would be trying to solve this, and they are. They have made some systems, but the problem is that contractors hate using them. They're hard to use, hard to get on the roof, and they break down often. Which is why today, even in 2019, if you go watch roof workers work, they're still using archaic forks, shovels, and rakes. So the problem in the roofing industry is that we are still in the dark ages, until now. Introducing Premise. Premise is a fully automated system that has a strong drive motors that can go around the roof without any human leverage needed. It has powerful 5 sensor systems that make sure it stays on the roof, but also maps it, so that it can take off shingles with its high-powered pneumatic system. It takes off shingles, nails, and paper, and then scrapes them to the bottom for easy removal by the operator. So we presented this yesterday to judges, and they liked it, but they wanted to see real footage. So don't mind the 2 o'clock in the morning footage, not on a roof, because apparently people don't like it at 2 in the morning. But notice Premise. So when he's turned on, he launches forward with his drive system and begins oscillating his front arm, removing nails and the shingles begin coming over the top. He goes layer by layer, taking off all the shingles. So how does this actually affect the industry? Let's take Belden, for example, a company out in Texas. They have an average of 5 team members who will go on day 1 and tear down the roof. On day 2, they will go and lay the shingles. So on average, they do 2 to 3 houses a week. As a company, they did 2,500 roofs last year with 560 workers. Now, with Premise, a single operator can take down a roof in 8 hours. And on day 2, the remainder of the crew goes and lays the new shingles. While at the same time, Premise is working on the second house. This process happens over and over again, and now we can do 5 to 6 houses a week. So that now goes, with the same 560 workers, they can do over 4,000 roofs. So currently they're paying $2,700 on average to do a roof teardown. With Premise, that cost dropped to only $600. That's a 4.5 times cost savings, saving over $2,000 a roof. So with our revenue structure, we charge $12,000 up front for robots and $2,000 a month of use, covering software, blade replacement, and liabilities. In a 5-year period, that's $92,000 valuation. So for Belden, giving them their $130 million revenue increase, for us, with the robot fleet, that's $2.58 million. So what are contractors actually saying about this? Let me give you a recent example. I called up a guy and said, hey, this is Todd from Auxilium, is this Gary? He's like, hey, how much? I was literally like, wait, what? He's like, you don't explain anything, how much for your robot, and I'll buy one. So what happened, the referral that he gave him to me had already told him what's happening, and he was so excited to fix this problem. Not him alone, across the country we're working very closely with over 20 different contractors who are ecstatic to get this on their roofs and fixing their problems. As we have our now patented product, we have multiple people who have signed letters of intent and more on the way. Our go-to-market strategy focuses on Utah, Colorado, and Texas as our entry market. And by next June in 2020, we plan to have our first 20 robots in our first 6 starter companies. As you can see, we are projecting $560,000 in sales next year, and then the growth potential after that as more machines get on roofs. We are asking for $300,000 to get to this point of producing and manufacturing our first 20 robots and having them on roofs. We are Artilium Automation. We automate the roofing process. Thank you so much. What questions?
Hi, my name is Marks, this is Grant, and along with Hal, we are co-founders of Neptune. Neptune solves the problem of plastic polluting our landfills, our oceans, and even our bodies. This whale was found with 49 pounds of plastic in its stomach off the coast of Italy just last week. Those 49 pounds are just a tiny fraction of the 8 million tons of plastic that we throw into the oceans every single year. And that's not just plastic floating around, but as well plastics that break down into tiny pieces called microplastics. These microplastics are then eaten by the tiniest elements of sea life, make their way up the food chain until they enter our bodies, where we are literally polluting our bodies with the very plastic we are trying to get rid of. And people are starting to take action, specifically governments all around the world. And with this huge problem, obviously comes huge markets. In 2025, we will spend $270 billion on plastic shipping packaging, and $123.4 billion on plastic food packaging. These are huge problems that we have to solve, and people are trying to solve them. The two solutions that are in the market right now are compostable plastics as well as paper bags. Both of those are at least 4 times more expensive than conventional plastic that we use today. The bioplastics need composting facilities to break down, and as well when they break down in the environment, they just break into microplastics, which we talked about is a huge problem. Paper bags contribute heavily to deforestation and take a lot of fossil fuels to create, which makes them just as bad for the environment. So you're left with this huge plastic problem and all of these non-solutions, and that is where Neptune comes in.
So what we're excited to talk to you guys today about here at Neptune is our biodegradable plastic that's gone in 5 days. It's really simple how we do it. We start with something that's already a byproduct of the seafood industry, shellfish waste, extract the main polymer chitin, and then put it through our shaping process to form our plastic. And so it truly is a fantastic thing because Marx was talking about these massive markets that need to be filled. Chitin is the second most abundant polymer on the planet. So it truly is an endless supply of raw materials to fill these huge markets. Not only that, but we chemically separate the shellfish protein, which people could be allergic to, from the shellfish polymer, which we use for our chitin, so allergies are not an issue as well. Some of the products that we've made are blister packs. We have styrofoam substitute, food packaging, as well as the infamous grocery bag, which is the poster child of today's global plastic pollution problem. And so as we mentioned, we have a few flagship benefits that really set us apart from the competition and solve this huge problem. It's 2 things, the biodegradability and the water solubility. As Marx mentioned, competitors leave microplastics in the environment. After 5 days, our plastic is completely gone. And due to the nature of the plastic, it actually acts as a fertilizer for the soil. Not only that, but it solves the ocean plastic pollution problem. After 60 seconds, when submerged in water, our plastic dissolves completely. This is huge. It doesn't take away from the fact that it is water resistant though, because if you are carrying your groceries from the store to the car in the rain, you'll be totally fine if it were to get wet. If it's humid as well, in Florida you can use the plastic, shelf life, all that is totally fine. And so with these massive benefits, people are starting to pick it up. And quite frankly, we've been working with some patent lawyers that are extremely qualified. One in particular, Dan Morath, we've been working with, he has a chemical engineering background. He said that not only do we have an innovative chemical solution, but an extremely efficient manufacturing process that makes our IP just absolutely impenetrable. Marx was mentioning a political climate. Well, we've been engaging with all sorts of politicians across the United States. And one in particular, Herm Olson, is the City of Logan councilman. He is currently pushing for a ban of plastic bags in the City of Logan here in Utah, and he's beyond excited about what we can bring to the market.
And so you would expect a thorough go-to-market strategy. And so the first step in that is to choose verticals. Our material is very versatile. However, we did choose the 2 verticals with the lowest switching costs to begin with. That would be poly bags and plastic bags. They are huge markets, but they do have the lowest switching costs, so that's what we choose. The second thing would be manufacturing. We know exactly how to build it, so we know the machinery. We're working with people on the supply and customer sides to bring this to market as quickly as possible in the next 2 to 4 months. The third step would be licensing. We know these markets are huge, and we can't tackle them on our own. And so we will be licensing this out. And these are some of the big players that we are currently working with. We also have our pro forma, which represents our 2 different revenue streams, licensing and manufacturing, and our profit projections for the next 3 years, where we see an obvious exponential growth.
The success of our team is our team. We have a brilliant chemical engineer, Hal Jones. He spent the last 3 years studying biodegradable polymers applied to medical uses. As well, Marks and I bring a finance and business background to the table. Not only that, but we've been working very closely with industry-specific advisors over the last few months. And so at Neptune, we're excited and hungry, yet very humbled to bring our product to this market. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kathleen Ivankovich, and this is Sammy Juzette, and we are the co-founders of Repower You, an interactive software system designed for students and schools to combat sexual assault. Imagine that this is your daughter. You will do anything to protect her. You make sure that she gets her shots, that she's always in her car seat. You fence your pool, and when she pulls out that cute little trike, you make sure that she's wearing a helmet. You will keep her safe. But time goes on, and your daughter grows up, and now she's off to university. You're both excited. So, what would you do if I came up to you as you're waving goodbye and told you that 1 in 4 students on her campus would be victims of sexual assault by the day of graduation? No, not on her campus, on every university campus across the United States. This is a huge problem, and something that's really startling is not only the 1 in 4 statistic, but also that 80% of victims do not report. This is not just a student problem, but quickly becomes a school problem, because if schools are found negligent in any way when it comes to Title IX or sexual assault, they can be sued for millions of dollars. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal where 26 different school districts were being sued for a combined total of $37 million because they did not have the right procedures or acts when it came to handling Title IX acts on their campus. Now, I'm sure you're thinking that if this is costing schools millions of dollars and it's happening to so many students, that there's a lot of competitors on the market. And you're right, there are 3 main competitors that we are going against. One is Maxient, the other is Title IX Web Forums, and the third is Project Callisto. But as you can see, none of these programs offer what Repower You offers. So, enter Repower You. We are designed to keep money in our schools while increasing reporting and decreasing sexual assault. There are 3 parts to our platform. Part 1 are bystander intervention videos. These are short videos that educate students on what constitutes the sexual assault, as well as walks them through our student app. The student app is the second part of our platform. Now, this app allows for students to anonymously communicate with Title IX officers so they do not have to feel embarrassed in any way. We allow a plethora of resources to be accessible to our students, and when it comes time to report, students can start and stop and save their work so they can work at a pace that's comfortable to them, and even upload any evidence. This is huge when it comes to revenge porn or sexting, so students do not have to keep these images on their phone, but can upload them, delete them, and keep trying to move forward. The third part of our platform is the web portal for Title IX administrators. Now, this would be the home page, and this is what it looks like. So they can see what cases are coming in, who's working on them, and whether or not the case is closed. This is huge. When we called Georgetown, and where their statistic is not 1 in 4, but 1 in 3, they were using Google Docs. There was a school in Tennessee, paper and pencil, and just last week, there was an article in Deseret News about Utah State where 2 students are suing the school because they lost their Title IX report. If you do not have a system in place, it is a lawsuit waiting to happen. Now, we also have a case overview, so the Title IX administrators can pull in the perpetrator and victim reports, because as bad as it is to be a victim of sexual assault, it is also terrible to be wrongfully accused of a crime that you did not commit. Now, we sell directly to schools for $1.91 to $4.50 per student annually.
Okay. We have already built a demo version of our platform, and the beta version will be out by the end of this June. We also have 6 different letters of intent with schools in Tennessee and in Utah, and we're in talks with a group of junior colleges in Southern California that was so excited by the software that not only do they want to buy it for all their junior colleges, they want to buy it for all their high schools as well. Now, our market breaks down into 3 main parts. We've got colleges and universities, we've also got K through 12, and we've got markets. We've got businesses for which the market is really quite large. Now, our go-to-market strategy breaks down into 3 years. First year, we are confident that we can start with 5 more paying schools this year. And we're confident that because of our letters of intent, as well as our talks in Southern California. Now, year 2, our #1 goal will be to sell to a large prestigious university to achieve greater brand name recognition, make future sales easier. Year 3, we're going to leverage that. We have 2 asks for you today. Our first ask is that you as the audience choose us for your audience choice. If you do that, we'll be able to use that money to help pay for providing our app to the BYU and UVU communities, providing the student resource app to both of them for the next 2 years. And second, if you know any administrators, we'd love to have a conversation with you about making their communities safer. Let's make our schools safe, let's make our students safe, repower you, and the change starts with you.
Hi, we're Speech Cloud, and we are leveling the academic playing field for the hard of hearing. Now, I want you to meet Emily. She's a hard of hearing student here at BYU. She actually struggles in classrooms because they're terrible learning environments for those that are hard of hearing. Let me explain. I want us to jump into Emily's shoes and imagine ourselves in this classroom or speaking event. There's people talking all around us. The presenter seems to be miles away. And no matter how hard we try, we just can't seem to be able to hear what's being said. Now, there are hearing aids, there are cochlear implants, but they just aren't sufficient enough for this environment. So to mitigate that problem, there are FM systems. But they're cumbersome hardware, there's distance problems, and they don't save the audio file for later. Not to mention, for an individual system, it can cost up to $6,000. And for an integrated system, BYU, for example, just spent $10 million, and it doesn't even work in every building. Now, there are also transcription services, and there's 2 types. There's meaning for meaning, which is just a summary, and there's word for word. Now, they're delayed, they require multiple transcribers, there's extensive amount of scheduling, and there's constant turnover and training. And for the meaning for meaning, it's about $40+ an hour. It can cost a student about $24,000 plus a year. And for the word per word, it's about $80 an hour, and it's $48,000 a year per student. The biggest problem, though, when we spoke with Emily, is that she doesn't use any of these services because they make her stand out, and as she put it, feel handicapped. So we got the same feedback from over 70+ hard of hearing students. And to understand just how big of a problem this is, there's over 35 million people that have some form of a hearing loss. And $76 billion is spent every single year to solve this problem. So we're not the only ones trying to solve this. So you can see our competitors, those that are providing those FM systems that I just showed, is going to be Cochlear and Phonak. And those that are providing those transcription services is Typewell and CART. Now, Speech Cloud comes right in the center, taking the best from the audio and the best from the speech to text. And we synergize it into a completely new and a revolutionary product. And so, what is Speech Cloud? Speech Cloud is a SaaS platform for the hard of hearing, and I'm going to show you a quick video on how it works.
Speech Cloud is a software to help the deaf and hard of hearing community no longer depend on others to participate in events and classrooms. The software works by streaming the audio from the presenter's mic through the cloud to the user's tablet, laptop, or phone. Many users may use the software simultaneously and are not limited by a specific device. The audio that is sent to the user's device connects to their hearing aids, allowing the user to hear the teacher as if they are a half a foot away. The audio is then transcribed to text so that the user not only has direct audio, but can follow along with a live transcription.
Perfect. So you can see the student would go to our website, speechcloud.org. They would sign in. They would go to their associated class, and now they're being provided with an audio amplified service without that bulky hardware, a live transcription service without the personnel. Everything is safe for later, and most importantly, it's discreet. These students no longer stand out and feel handicapped. And we got this exact feedback from our users. Now, we also wanted to create a great product for the university since they're the ones cutting the check. So we completely eliminated the scheduling and training, and we cut their cost in half. We're doing this through our revenue model of $1,000 to $10,000 a month, depending on the size of school. And for the audio streaming, it's $10 an hour per student, and for the audio and text, it'll be $20. Now, we wanted to focus on our universities, and so we went and spoke with Jason, who's over the accommodative services at UVU. And when we showed him Speech Cloud, he said, we have been waiting for something just like this. And we went and spoke with over 30+ other accessibility centers, and they kept on saying the same thing. And so we knew we had something going, so we went and learned about the pricing models, and we determined based off of 100% market obtaining that we could actually achieve $16 billion in annual recurring revenue. We have 4 big markets that we can attack. We'll be focusing on the education market, however, primarily universities, because they're already systemically prepared. They have a budget for the services, not to mention they're required by the government to provide these, as well as they're the first adopters of this technology. Now, we currently have 3 lighthouse customers using this product, and we plan on having a hard launch that correlates with their paying cycle in August. So you can see, with that paying cycle, we'll launch and turn those lighthouse customers into paying customers. And by the end of this year, we project to have 13 universities contracted to use SpeechCloud. By the end of this year as well, we'll have $155,000 in revenue. And by 2023, we project to have $40 million in annual recurring revenue. Our team is not only experienced to succeed, but we are passionate about helping this community however we can. We are SpeechCloud, and we are leveling the academic playing field for the hard of hearing. Thank you.
Hey everyone, my name is Riley Meek. I'm here with SUGARHOUSE Aerospace, the first company to provide consumer-priced access to space. Now, I'm sure the first thing that comes to your mind is, 1, you guys actually build rockets? To that, I say, see for yourself. Second, you're probably thinking, even if you can build rockets, how are you going to compete with the big dogs like these guys? Well, the answer is we're not competing with them. If anything, we're helping them. An orbital rocket, or one of the rockets you saw on the last slide, costs at least $63 million. So when a satellite is placed in orbit, say one that powers Google Maps, it costs at least $63 million to do so. So companies, before sending these expensive payloads up into space permanently, will launch test payloads on what's called a suborbital rocket. A rocket that spends 5 to 10 minutes in space to ensure that everything is working properly before paying the big bucks to keep it up there for years on end. Now, even though we've made great progress in bringing the cost from $63 million down to $350,000, it's still out of reach. It doesn't allow for rapid prototyping in space. It's not easy, it's really not inexpensive, and it's really slow. But there's $1 billion spent each year in testing technology before putting it up permanently in space. But as we change things and make it easy, quick, and inexpensive to put things in space, that's going to grow to $1.5 billion. Not only that, it's going to expand to 2 other markets. The educational market, where right now $2 billion is spent each year on university projects or clubs. Of that, $300 million will be spent specifically on space technology. And then in the consumer market, where $750 million is spent every year, just here in the United States, on learning about space through museums, books, magazine subscriptions, or other space artifacts, $100 million will be spent sending consumer payloads into space. Now, right now there are 4 main competitors in the suborbital market. You may recognize some of them, and they're all very strong in their specific areas. But none of them are combined to be both quick, easy to work with, and inexpensive. So I'd like to introduce you to SUGARHOUSE Aerospace, and specifically SUGARHOUSE 1, our launch vehicle. So previously, like I was saying, it cost $350,000 to launch a rocket like this. With us, it's only $150,000. Now that's still out of reach for small aerospace companies, universities, and consumers. So you can launch something much smaller, buy just a seat on the rocket, a picosat or a femtosat, for $5,000 or $1,000 respectively. So now space is only $1,000 away from anyone on Earth. So, like I was saying, instead of $350,000, it's down to $150,000. And if you don't need the entire payload space, you can buy just $1,000 worth of space. SUGARHOUSE Aerospace is moving quickly. We have our first launch May 18th. We're excited. We're moving fast because it's fully booked. After that launch, we have a launch in December. It's also fully booked, where we'll be launching payloads into space for the first time. We have also our NASA certification that day, which means next year we'll get to start launching NASA payloads. We have 4 launches next year. One of them is already fully booked. After closing our angel round, we'll start to develop a larger facility that can produce 10 rockets a year. In the year 2021, we'll introduce the curriculum into K-12 schools. So instead of just working with universities, students in K-12 will be able to learn about space in their class and then be able to put something in space. In 2022, we'll launch 50 rockets, close our Series A, and develop a SUGARHOUSE 100 facility capable of producing 100 rockets per year. Then in 2023, we'll release what's called the Sugar Cube. It's a modular payload for consumers that you can buy on Amazon or other retail websites so that anyone can put something in space. And that will only be $500. Then in 2024, we'll be up to full cadence where we'll be launching 100 rockets per year. And at that time, we'll be making $50 million in revenue with a 92% profit margin. SUGARHOUSE Aerospace is moving quickly, and we're changing the way that people think about space. The only question is, how are you guys going to be a part of it?
So, hi, my name is Skylar, and this is Brian, and we are co-founders of Thrive Smart Systems. And our goal at Thrive is to make every sprinkling system wireless, whether that be residential, commercial, or agricultural. So first, let me explain how a typical sprinkling system works. You have a control box that sends a signal to your valves, which tells them to open and close, letting water flow to your sprinklers. And this is how over 750,000 new residential sprinkling systems are installed every year in the United States. And even the most advanced sprinkling system on the market today is still using wire to go from the control box to these valves. And we estimate that's over $67 million spent just on wire. Now, imagine how much more a large-scale farmer is spending on wire because they're stringing them across miles and acres of land. So let's say you're not stringing wire, but you have your system already set up. What happens if your wire gets cut or it's shorting out? Currently, the only way to solve this is by trenching through dirt and concrete to lay a new wire and fix the short, which is very expensive and very time-consuming. In fact, we estimate $130 million is spent just on fixing wire in the irrigation industry every year. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, if wire installation and wire maintenance are such big problems, why haven't people been trying to solve this? Well, they have. 3 of the major players in the irrigation industry have tried solving this. And what they've come up with is a battery-operated controller. Now, this controller goes directly in your valve box. It connects to one valve, it runs on a battery, and is on a completely independent timer than the rest of your system. So now, you've introduced even more problems. You have to deal with replacing a battery every year, more maintenance costs, and now the biggest problem, you have divided your system. Now you have multiple controllers and multiple timers. So, we spoke with dozens of contractors, and when they go around, they say they are experiencing more than 30 of these controllers in a single HOA, and more than 17 in just 25 acres. So it's safe to say that these battery-operated controllers are not solving the problem, the wiring problem in the irrigation industry. Yet people are craving a solution to this problem, that they're spending over $100 million just on these controllers. And you know what? They are not solving the problem. No one has solved the problem yet, and that's where Thrive comes in. So our solution has 2 parts. We have a wireless forwarder and a wireless valve switch. Our forwarder can connect to any existing control box, then sends a wireless signal to your switch, which then connects to the existing valves. It is powered by water flow that generates a charge that stores it in a rechargeable battery and stores enough to flip these valves on and on. And we have validated that our solution is the best on the market and is ready to revolutionize the irrigation industry.
And that's exactly what the market has been telling us as well. We've talked to hundreds of landscapers and collected formal willingness to pay data from 42, generating a revenue maximizing price of $143 per switch. And we've also taken our technology to the irrigation trade show in Long Beach, California, where 3 of the largest companies in this sector, these are the Microsofts and Apples of the irrigation industry, approached us wanting to talk about either partnership or acquisition. And why is that? Because the market for this is enormous. If you could convert every sprinkler system in the US alone to a wireless system, you'd be sitting on a hefty $12.7 billion. Now, how much of this pie could you feasibly take per year? We've validated that wireless technology could easily take $159 million every year. And this is great, but where are we at with the technology? What traction do we have? So we've successfully retrofitted an old-fashioned standard control box, had it flip a valve from over a mile away. Our wireless valve switch successfully generates power through water flow. We have a patent filed as of December 2nd of 2018, as well as $51,000 in pre-orders in 2 weeks. The market wants this, so how are we going to get it to them? Well, we plan on selling directly to contractors during our alpha and beta test, and then launching our official Generation 1 product through irrigation retailers at the beginning of 2020. Now, as far as what this looks like financially, again, year 2 is when we begin selling through irrigation retailers, with 600 locations by year 5, generating $68 million in revenue. And we have an amazing team to move this forward, of 4 engineers, an industrial designer, and a business strategist, as well as a handful of mentors who have helped us along the way. And we're looking to raise $1 million, and we are all in because we know that 1 year, 5 years, 10 years from now, there will still be sprinkler systems, but they will not be wired. Wireless irrigation will become an industry standard. The question is, who is going to get it there? And we believe that's going to be us. Thrive. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kyle Quillen. This is my partner, Chris Bright, and we're True Adherence. And we're bringing gyms into the 21st century. So, what do I mean by that? Well, here we have Michael and Brian. These 2 gentlemen bravely started a gym last year. Why does it take bravery to start a gym? Well, they're basically a revolving door. In this industry, annually you have about 40% churn rates. It's pretty painful when your income can be so volatile, and sometimes you hit lean times where all of a sudden you've got to make a tough decision. Do we make payroll, or do we buy supplies for our gym? Now, we met with the training room, but we've also met with 75 other gyms, personal interviews with the owners across the nation, and asked, is that the main point? Is it really retention? We got a bunch of data from them, and really it came down to a few other issues, such as differentiation, marketability. How do we get people in the door? And then safety, convenience, knowledge. How do we keep them inside? But really, as we looked into it deeper, it's just retention. Those are subcomponents of it, especially that differentiation and marketability. When you're running in an industry where the last innovation was during the Industrial Revolution, you've got some challenges, right? So, there have been some more modern attempted solutions, but there's some issues. So you have personal trainers. They provide that knowledge, a little bit of safety. However, it's become a commodity already, so lack of differentiation. Smart equipment. It'll count your reps and range of motion, but it's not really giving you the knowledge and teaching you safety aspects. And that's the same for these virtual trainers, where you just sort of watch a video and do it in the gym. This is where we stand out. We provide a real-time, hands-free feedback solution where people can see what they're doing, learn from it in real time, and have this data tracked, and actually be more knowledgeable and safe at the same time. We'll get into what that looks like a little bit more. 21st century experience, here's what it looks like. You have embedded trainers in there showing you how to do a movement so you can watch and do. And then for your safety, you're getting a real-time feedback as you squat in front of one of our kiosks. Turns red if you have some issues. And then from there, we provide the convenience factor of counting your reps, providing a workout routine that you just follow it. And lastly for this, it's adaptive. As we get more data about you, we can help improve your workout plans and fine-tune towards your goals based on your specific body. Now, our platform. There's obviously this hardware component. We provide the software as a service, and then we provide an end-user portal for access to the data that we aggregate. Now, as we talk about onboarding a user, we'd like to invite our lovely guest Aurora onto the stage to show you what this looks like. And while she does this, I'll talk a bit about what it's like. So, a user will walk up to a kiosk, and as you can see, it recognizes them. If they don't already have an account, they'll be asked to download our app. From there, they get the data they need about their health, and then we have them do a movement assessment, like Aurora's doing right now, to see are there any limitations in movement. From there, we create the first customized plan for the individual. Basically what I'm saying, people walk into the doors, they just show up, and then they get to work out without many challenges that face normal people. Thank you, Aurora. So, making money. We sell these kiosks for $5,000. It's at a 70% gross margin at fully landed cost. $500 per month for the software. That's per kiosk that's active. Average gym owner says we'd like 2 in our first year. So year 1 revenues, it's about $22,000. Scaling though, that's what we're here for, right? Scalable ventures. To get to 1 million in ARR, just as an illustration, that's 85 active gyms. But for break even, based on the profitability we have, we only need to get to about 20. Now, how is this possible? Is it even feasible? There's 40,000 gyms in the United States. We're talking about a 0.2% penetration rate to get to that 1 million mark. We're already on our way. This kiosk we borrowed from our client, the training room, and we're starting a few other beta sites later this summer. Go to market, we're starting with these performance-focused gyms. This tool will be used to onboard clients to help them improve. And then we're going to lifestyle gyms. They're high amenity places with this futuristic tech. They want it in there as well. And eventually we'll move into big box gyms. Channels, old school industry as we showed earlier. It's direct sales and showing this off at trade shows. Got to prove that it works. Timeline for this? We got some more development to do. We're doing that over the next few months as we launch into the performance gyms. When we hit our milestone there, we'll switch to lifestyle and eventually to really grow, we'll get these big box gyms. To do that, initial ask, $250,000, mainly for the development and those initial sales as I talked about. We have a great team. We started this 3 months ago. It was just an idea. We already have product. Super excited about this. And we look forward to inviting everybody to experience the benefits of true adherence. Thank you.